Alright guys, so for today's video, we're going to be talking about the 50-mile ruck that I performed 5 days ago as of right now. Today is December the 15th, 2023, and on December the 10th, 2023, I completed a 50-mile ruck march in honor of my good friend Todd Bates, who passed away 20 years ago this week on December the 10th, 2003, while we were serving in Iraq. That was the purpose for this 50-mile ruck march. And I don't know, now that it's complete, I thought it would only be appropriate to make a video talking about it, but also to thank everybody that supported me through this process. Trying to keep this as brief as possible, but this experience was probably one of the most impactful things I've ever done in my entire life. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that. I have a very difficult time putting into words what all of this means to me. There was the actual ruck, and then there was almost more important were the number of people that came out and supported me in this effort. And I want to start off by saying thank you to all of those people. And I think that there's different, it's weird to say, but there's kind of different tiers to the number, or to the people who had significant impact on this effort. And I think the first group of people that I need to recognize are the guys that actually participated in this ruck with me. So the guys that you're looking on the screen right here, these are the people that started the 50-mile ruck with me. When it comes to the 50 miles, I am the only person that completed the entire event, but I had a lot of people on during that 16 and a half hours that actually walked with me and supported me physically through this event, and I need to give them a lot of credit. The first two guys I want to talk about are these two gentlemen right here. This is my buddy Mike, and this is my buddy Seth. Mike and Seth were both in the Army with me. They were both in my platoon. They both were deployed with me. They were both there with me the night that Todd died. I spent 2 weeks walking up and down the Tigris River with these two men, hoping to find my friend Todd. And of course we never did. It was somebody else that ended up finding him. But these two guys drove 2.5 to 3 hours away from their homes to come and participate in this with me. Seth, actually, one of his sons had his first ever wrestling tournament on this Saturday going into Sunday, and Seth was unable to watch his own son in his wrestling tournament because he took that time to come hang out with me instead and help support me in this effort. And I know that Mike also had to make a lot of rearrangements with his family and some stuff. You know, we're relatively close to Christmas. This is a big deal that they took time out of their lives to come down and support me. These two men both walked the first 12 miles of the route with me. And then this is my buddy Caleb and my newer friend Paul. When I set out to do this, I knew that I was going to need some younger guys with me to help kind of pull me along, help support me, and just help keep me from quitting. Because when you set out to do something like this 50-mile ruck, I've got the map up over here, I'll show you. To be honest, I didn't know if I was going to be able to physically complete this challenge. This was something that scared me. It intimidated me. It was something that I knew I was going to have to dig down deep in order to complete. And I needed somebody with me to prevent me from quitting. And that's, I literally contacted this guy right here, Caleb. He was the guy that I knew had the highest likelihood of being able to complete this task with me, and that he was going to be there to support me and keep me from quitting. And he put in a tremendous effort, and without his support, I don't think I would have done this. He's a former Army Ranger. He was in the Ranger Battalion. He's done a lot of ruck marching in his life, and I depended heavily on him. This is Paul. Paul is actually one of Caleb's friends that they served in the military together and deployed with. He's a former Marine. These two men both, without any training, without any preparation or whatever, they both agreed to hop on this event with me and go for as long as they were physically able. Neither one of these guys have done any rucking in a significant period of time. Caleb here, he had a significant ankle injury about a year ago that required surgery. So he's a year out from a serious ankle surgery, and has not been doing any ruck training. Paul probably hasn't done anything in 6 years. Walking 50 miles under load, with a backpack on, is incredibly challenging. I can tell you that when I first started training for this, my first training ruck was 10 miles, and that first 10 miles almost broke me. My feet were absolutely destroyed. My legs hurt. I had shin splints. My hips were bothering me. It was an incredible. It was a real eye opener for me to realize how difficult this is when your body has not been training and conditioned for this kind of event. With proper amount of training, you can do it with minimal problems. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But without any training, it beats your body up really bad. And these two guys made it to about the 36-mile mark before they had to tell me, look, man, Caleb with his ankle surgery and stuff, and Paul, he developed some foot problems about 13 or 14 miles in, and he was walking funny for probably 20 miles. The fact that they were able to get as far as they did is amazing. Those two guys got me to the point where they could basically pass the torch to my wife and my oldest daughter, who's 11 years old, and they took me in the rest of the way, along with my younger brother. So these are the guys that started with me. These two guys made it the furthest. I also had one of my good friends, his name is Wilson. He joined in when we were, let's see, I wrote it down. I got some notes here. We were 17 miles in, and he went to about the 35-mile mark, so he did 18 and a half miles. Also, my younger brother joined us when we were 26 miles in, and he went all the way to the end, so he did 23.8 miles. I've got a couple of pictures here. Here we are at the end. This is my buddy Mike that got up the next morning and came and met us at the finish. This is my younger brother. I've got a good picture. Let's see, right here. Here we are. This is when we were this is our last rest stop. This is 5 miles from the finish. That's my brother. That's my 11-year-old daughter. That's me sitting down. My brother didn't want to sit down because when you sit down, taking that pressure off your feet, believe it or not, actually causes your feet to hurt a little bit. And it takes probably a mile or two to get your feet back to feeling right when you start walking. So sometimes the easiest thing you can do is to stay on your feet. I was 45 miles into the ruck at this point. I needed to get off my feet for a little bit. My lower back was starting to hurt. It is what it is. So I was sitting down to eat. A funny thing about my brother is that I'm 44 years old. He's 2 years younger. He's 42 years old. He volunteered to do this with absolutely no training. Due to his work schedule and his family schedule, he wasn't able to meet up with us until maybe about midnight. So he'd been up since about 6 in the morning, met up with us at midnight, and then continued on and finished with us. We finished at 8:30 in the morning. One of the other impressive things about my younger brother, he doesn't have any military experience, has never done anything like this other than some backpacking when we were kids. This was his attire. So he went in a pair of tennis shoes, a pair of baggy pants, a hoodie. His nutrition through the 24 miles that he did with us was a Ziploc bag of leftover pizza. And he had a water bottle in his pack, and he smoked about a pack and a half of cigarettes while we were going. So it's amazing that he was able to do this on a whim. It means a great deal to me that this has been a very rewarding and emotional experience for me. But it means a great deal to me that my brother, knowing how important this was to me, volunteered to come and do this to help make sure that I got to the finish line. And I know that he was in a tremendous amount of pain for several days afterwards. So these are not facts that got by me. My oldest daughter right here, she did an amazing job doing the final 10 miles. She had to get up at about 4 in the morning and met us about 5 a.m. because we were actually way ahead of schedule. I didn't expect to complete this ruck until about 10 in the morning, which would have put us at the checkpoint where I wanted to meet her. I can pull it up on the map. The spot where I had planned for her to meet us was this Giant Eagle store right here, 41.8 miles. I expected to be there about 6:30 in the morning. We were way ahead of schedule. We got there at about 5 a.m. So I had to call my wife and say, hey, actually I called her a little bit before this. I was like, hey, it's going to be about 5 a.m. when we get to the checkpoint. If you want to walk with us at all, you're going to have to get up. So she got up, she got my daughter up, and they actually met us because, I had to keep going. They actually met us about here. So what mile marker is that? 43 miles in. So they had about 7 miles to go with us to the finish. Couple of things about actually completing this that were really kind of cool. I guess I don't know how to kind of go through all this. One of the plan that I had going into this was that about every 5 miles I was going to get out my phone, do a little recording, talk to the camera, tell you how it's going, tell how I'm feeling at the time. And then at the end, I was going to try to splice all of those together to make a video about it. Unfortunately, we had some torrential downpour for the first, almost 20 miles. See if this video will play. So I had to go under like an awning. This is 12 miles in and try to talk about it. But the moral of the story was for 20 miles, I couldn't really use my phone. There was no cover for us. I had to walk around with a poncho. My hands were pruny. I had to keep my hands inside my poncho, holding on to my thing. We were basically just walking and holding on for dear life. It was bad. Our feet were soaking wet. And if you've done anything like this, wet feet is an absolute, is murder on your feet. I don't know. I wasn't able to do the recordings and things as I went. The first 20 miles were absolutely miserable. And you have to keep in mind that 20 miles in itself is quite the task. And we went through the first 20 miles under absolutely horrible conditions. So I don't know, it makes it mean even that much more to me that we were able to complete this. Some other kind of funny things that happened along the way is I've got this little video right here. So when we were walking along, and I'll show you where this is on the map, it's pretty easy to find. We were in Valley View, right here along these railroad tracks, and I can actually go to the satellite map. So there's some railroad tracks right here. There's this road here. This is Harper Road, and there's a set of railroad tracks. Well, as we were walking along, we heard some tires spinning and engine revving, and we looked over on the railroad tracks. There's a car on the railroad tracks. We walked over and offered to help push her off of the railroad tracks, and we could smell alcohol on her breath. And somebody kind of accused her of having a little bit of alcohol. At that point in time, she got an attitude with us and said, you know what? I don't want your help. And you got, yada, 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 the misattitude thing. So we said, okay, fine. And we weren't going to help a drunk driver get back on the road anyway. So I ended up just calling 911, had the sheriff's department come out and take care of this. And I don't know what happened to her, but it was pretty funny. She had a group of strapping young men that we were only 10 miles into the ruck at this point. We still had energy. We were offering to push her off the railroad tracks. Because of her level of intoxication, she got shitty with us, and we left her there, and we had to let the police deal with it. I posted this video on Facebook and Instagram, and a couple people asked me what the outcome was. And unfortunately, I don't know the outcome. I just called and left because I was on a mission. That was another thing that was really neat about this experience. And I'll go back to the picture of the large group that we started with. Everybody understood that this was a mission and that this mission needed to be completed, and that I was the one that had to complete this mission. So when we got to the gas station where I did the video, that's where Seth and Mike had the intentions of leaving. They parked a car there so that they could leapfrog out and all that stuff. That was their scheduled departure. We stopped there for a minute and we talked. I said, hey, thanks for coming down. It means a lot to me. I've got to keep moving. There was no time to kind of sit and hem and haw and think too much about what was going on. Not too much time for rest, because if you sit down, you might not get back up. They understood completely. They shook my hand, gave me a hug. They took off. When we got to, I had mentioned before that my buddy Wilson joined us. He joined us when we were somewhere in this area here. So about 17 miles in is when he joined us, and he took it all the way up here to High and Lozelle when we turned in towards Westerville. That was his 18 and a half miles. He had his girlfriend come pick him up. Oh, that's not High and Lozelle. High and Lozelle is all the way up here. Ooh, yeah. So he went a long ways. So he joined us here and went all the way up here. So he did 18 and a half miles. We stopped at a gas station here. I went in, changed all of my clothes, changed out of my shorts. I was wearing shorts in the beginning because it was 60 degrees and I had an entire change of clothes. So went into the gas station, changed out of my shorts, put pants on, changed my underwear, changed both pairs of my socks, put on a new t-shirt, new, clean. I wear like a quarter zip, base layer, long underwear style shirt. Came all out all nice and dry. He had called his girlfriend. She came, picked him up. I shook his hand, gave him a coin, said, see you later. We're going to continue on our mission. And there was, there was no love lost, no hard feelings, no anything. Everybody just had the understanding and the appreciation that we were on a mission, and that this mission had to be completed, and that it was the most important person to complete that mission was me, and that they were there to support me. It was an incredible feeling. It was awesome. So like my buddy Wilson, that's where he ended up dipping out. And then when we got up here, I already showed you this giant eagle up in Westerville. I don't know if the computer, yeah. This giant eagle up in Westerville, that's where I left my buddy Caleb and Paul sitting on a bench. And my brother and I continued on. We went and got a cup of coffee at a gas station, and then hit this part of the bicycle trail, continued on. That's when we met my wife and my daughter. At the end, we ended up meeting I've got some pictures. We met up with everybody at the Ohio Fallen Heroes Memorial, which is right here. And then I stopped and took a picture at the memorial for Todd. And that was basically it. If I want to talk about the event itself, I think it's important. Like, the thing I appreciated so much about this, and that is so hard to kind of put into words, is that, and I think that everybody should do this at least once in their life, set out to do something very physically demanding that you are not sure you'll be able to complete. Do all of the training and prepare yourself as best as possible, but make it so difficult that even with all of that training and conditioning, there's still a chance that you might fail. And then when you get to that point where you want to quit, you have to push through that. There is something incredibly rewarding on a personal level that is almost surreal, that I can't really describe to you on what that means. And the crazy thing about doing this is when we got to the 20-mile mark, I remember my watch chimed in and said, this is 20 miles. Where is it? Is it here? Yeah. So somewhere right on the bike path. So right about campus, just north of campus, or actually right on campus, we hit the 20-mile mark. And I remember we'd been walking for about 6 hours. And I remember looking at my watch, I hit the 20-mile mark. I was like, all right, guys, there's 20 miles. And everybody looked at each other like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. My back hurts. My feet hurt. And we're not even halfway there. That's when you realize how daunting of a task this is. But one of the really cool things about it, we embarked at 4 p.m. We finished at 8:30 in the morning. So the majority of the walking was at night. And the city is just so quiet at that time. We're walking mostly on bike paths, some city streets, You're walking through, you're looking at people's back doors as you're walking along the bike path, looking at Christmas lights, walking through some small town centers and stuff like that. It's almost surreal that you feel that you're passing through a world that doesn't know you exist, and that you're doing something epic. I keep saying it, I'm having a hard time putting into words, but it was amazing. Everybody, as much pain as they were in, had such a good time that they've already volunteered to come back and do it next year, which is pretty cool and it means a lot to me. I don't know. I think that's about it that I want to talk about with that part of the thing. I made a graphic that I posted on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and I want to kind of discuss that a little bit too, because there's some people, I'm sure, that are on here that are considering doing something like this at some point in their life, and would like some advice on doing this. This was the 25-mile ruck, kind of by the numbers. So it was a 50-mile ruck. I wore a 35-pound pack. I took 101,000 steps. It took 16 and a half hours. I consumed 9 liters of water. The reason it was 9 liters is because I have a 3-liter water pack on my back. And when I left the house, it was full. I had to fill it up twice while we were out on the road. So that was 9 liters. My nutrition, I had 5 peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches while we were out there. So the day before, I went ahead and I did some planning. I was thinking that this was going to take us about 18 hours. And my plan was every hour on the hour to eat half of a peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwich. And I went out to my ruck to get some of my nutrition supplements because I wanted to show you guys on camera. And it would turn out that I still had one in my pack. So here's one of my peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches that I actually took on the ruck with me. I'm going to get this out of the way and I can show you. So this is my pack right here. This was my poncho. This is a red light that I turn on when I'm walking at night. This little gray pouch was my food pouch, my little on-deck food pouch. So in that food pouch at all times, I had one of these, a sandwich or half of one, depending on where it was. I also had one of these little energy gel things. This is a Huma energy gel, but I also have some Goo energy gels. In my pocket, I also carried some of these. These are little gummies. There's 2 servings in here, and each serving has 100 calories. I think like 25 grams of carbohydrates. Yeah, 24 grams of carbohydrates per serving. And then in my back pocket, I carried one of these. This is a honey stinger waffle. These are also 160 calories and 19 grams of carbohydrates. When you're doing something like this, staying fueled and carved up is probably, next to taking care of your feet, the most important part. And 2 weeks before I set out to do 50, I did a 20-mile ruck. And I can tell you that I did not properly eat while I was out there. When I got back home, I collapsed on the floor. I had the cold shivers and shakes, and I was dead to the world for a day or 2. It was absolutely horrible. The reason for that is because I bonked out because I didn't have enough food in me. So my plan this time was, after my first hour, when we were an hour into the ruck, I was going to have half of one of these sandwiches. And then 30 minutes after that, I was going to have one of these. So every hour, I was going to have half of a sandwich and a gel. And on the hours that I didn't have a gel, I would have 3 of these gummies. And then there were other times where instead of having a peanut butter sandwich, I would have one of these, just so that I wasn't eating the exact same thing all the time. But I was getting, 40 to 50 grams of carbohydrates an hour, just to kind of keep my sugars up and keep me going. Interestingly enough, the recommendation from experience from doing cycling and stuff is to have closer to 100 grams of carbs an hour. So I definitely didn't get as many carbs as what's recommended, but I can tell you that, well, you know what? These probably have way more carbs than what I thought, because the bread was 20 grams of carbohydrates. There's banana on there, and then there's honey. So half of one of these sandwiches is probably 40 grams of carbs. So I probably had closer to 60 to 80 grams of carbohydrates per hour. Between that and the water, those are two of the most important aspects of doing this. That's what's going to allow you to keep going as long as your body is in shape. If your body is in shape, but you're not getting proper nutrition as you go, you're not going to be able to complete one of these events. So that's my advice as far as that goes. So I had 5 of those peanut butter, banana, and honey sandwiches. I also stopped and got like a sandwich at a gas station when we went, so I didn't have to eat all 7 sandwiches that I had packed. Also, when my wife and daughter met with us at about 5:30 in the morning, they planned on eating something before they came, but just it was so early in the morning, they were unable to eat anything. So I had a couple extra sandwiches I was able to give to my wife and daughter. That way they had something to eat, some calories in them. And I don't know, they did just fine getting through the day. So I had, through the whole thing, I ended up consuming about 5 of these gel packs and about 5 packs of these. These are kind of nice because it gives you something to chew on. And it just makes you feel like you're having a different kind of food as you go. These ones also have a little bit of caffeine in them, if you guys can see that. So another little pick me up as I went. Another thing that I did was I had 3 packets of liquid IV. If you guys can see this, I can make it bigger. Liquid IV, if you guys aren't familiar with it, this is an electrolyte mix. You just pour this in a water bottle and you're good to go. I had those whenever we had like a large stop where I was able to get in my pack, as well as we had to have a water source. I didn't bring any water bottles with me to the desk, but I carry a water bottle that I put on my bike. I carry an empty one in my pack with one of those packets in it. And then when we stop for a long break, probably every 2-3 hours was my goal, I'd fill that with water, shake it up, basically chug it down so that it was empty, put it back in my pack, and we would continue on. Keeping your electrolytes up is also very important, so you don't get cramps and those kinds of issues. I already mentioned that I had those honey wafers. I had 2 of them. Through the course of the 50 miles, I wore 4 different shirts, 4 pairs of socks, 2 different pairs of pants, and then I mentioned that I had the experience of a lifetime. I don't know. I don't want to just keep going on and on and on about this, but if you get the opportunity to do something like this, I would highly recommend that you do. Something else that, I mentioned earlier, that everybody that participated in this said they had such a good time that they want to do it again, even though it was so grueling and so difficult. And I believe I'm fairly committed to doing this again next year. And I think we're going to try to make this an annual event in the city of Columbus. I've got some more things that I need to work out before making that official announcement, but that is definitely something that I'm putting a serious amount of thought and effort into doing. And I'm thinking around Veterans Day weekend next year. So if this is something that you're interested in doing, I would say that you should get yourself a pair of boots and a pack and start rucking at least once a week. Get yourself a couple miles in, start working up to where you can comfortably do 10 miles and get a couple of 20-mile training rucks in the meantime, because next year around Memorial Day, or around Veterans Day, either the week before or the weekend after, I'm going to be doing this again, and I'm going to be opening it up to the public. As soon as I get the details on that ironed out, I will be making the official announcement. But I wanted to give everybody kind of a warning order as far as that goes. Now, lastly, and I should have mentioned this earlier in the video, but once I get going on a topic, sometimes, you know how that is. But I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart, with as much sincerity as I can muster, the people that donated to this GoFundMe account. This is absolutely incredible to me. I'm blown away by the response to this. At this point in time, we have $3,595 that has been raised that will go to Todd's high school football program, which that's what this is really all about. Giving back to the community that gave us Todd. And also, kind of helping his community remember who he was and helping his community know how much he is appreciated and his sacrifice is appreciated. It means a lot to me that so many people, 89 donations so far, have reached into their pockets and given this cause a portion of their hard-earned money. I can't say strongly enough how thankful I am for you guys and your donations and your support on this. This means a lot to me. Yeah, it's a big deal. I appreciate you guys. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. I just want to say thank you again for everybody that supported me through this process and everybody that's had a hand in helping me complete this task. There's more people that I didn't name. There's probably more people than I could possibly get to. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. Thank you for encouraging me to do this, and thank you for holding me accountable to make sure that I actually completed this task. It was incredibly difficult, but probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my adult life. So thank you. I'll talk to you later.